We have now made it to the halfway point in our steps. Something to remember, these first 5 steps should be achieved in about 15 minutes. Again, I am going through everything step by step. I'm explaining everything. Normally, you would just be scribbling things on paper as fast as you can. So, step 5 is sorting and structuring. So it's creating the Peel plan of your essay. And if there is just one thing that I could have every one of my English students do, it would be create a Peel plan before you start writing your essay. Too many of my students simply write a stream of consciousness, and that means that it's not a guided analysis. Remember, you're writing a guided analysis, and the absolute best way of making sure it is guided is by having a Peel plan. So, when you are sorting and structuring, you look at your ideas. Which are the most useful? How should they be ordered to have the most impact? How can they be linked together? And what you do is you create a Peel plan. The Peel plan is this. Peel stands for point, evidence, explain, link. So each paragraph needs to start off with a topic sentence, a sentence that explains the point of that paragraph. Then you give evidence that backs up your point, you explain that evidence, and you link it to the next point. And your Peel plan should, of course, include your introduction and your conclusion. Your introduction should have a hook, a thesis, and your plan. So your plan is your 3 points. I advise having 3-point essays. It's a good number of points to make. You can have more, but you might not have enough time to cover everything or to give enough detail. You can have less, but then you might not have enough information. So that is something to keep in mind. And your conclusion, you rephrase your thesis again, you have your summary, and you close with a wise thought. Something to remember, which we will talk about when we're talking about the introduction and the conclusion. Your hook and your wise thought should be connected to the text. Do not, for example, this text has to do with mental health. Do not go off on a tangent about mental health in general. Focus specifically on the text, but we will come back to that later. So, let's create our Peel plan. One thing we can do straight away, go back, copy paste our thesis into our Peel plan. That way it is done. And for the plan here, we do not need to write down each point since they will be here. And our hook, what I like to do with paper one hooks is give information about the text itself. So audience, purpose, content, and theme. I tend to introduce the text as my hook. So for example, this is a comic strip written by yada yada yada. So that is our introduction point done. Let me just adjust this so that everything is on the same level, and I am also going to make this full screen and let's have a look at nope, that was too much. I should have set this up earlier. Okay, that's the right size, and we'll make all the text smaller so everything fits on the one page and you can see what is going on. So we've got our hook, we've got our thesis, and we have the plan which we need to work on. Let's go back and have a look at the ideas that we wrote down. So we have colors reinforce the message of the text. We have the first box, and we have advice with the backgrounds, we have the characters and the body language, and we have the final panel. So my thought is that I am going to start large and go down. That is one way that you can structure your essay, where you start with the big things and you move into little things, or you can do it the other way, little things into big things, or you can do it linearly. Start at the beginning of the text and work your way through. But I'm going to go large, so I'm going to look at the overall text first. So colors reinforcing the message of the text. So the impression I got of the text overall when I first looked at it. It's not working with me. I do not know why my text is doing this to me. Then the second point is going to be a little bit more focused, and that is going to be character, facial expressions, and body language. And that is going to be my second point. Again, don't know why I did that. And my third point is going to be specific boxes. Now, I quite like the first box especially, and the final panel, but I think the final panel, I am going to use the contrast between the final panel and the previous panels in order to, that's going to be my example for my body paragraph 1. So I'm going to stick that in there. So my body paragraph 3 is going to look at the first box specifically as its example, its evidence. And so my point is going to be individual panels, individual messages. So we look at the messages overall. We looked at characters, facial expressions, and body language in general, and then we're going to look at a specific panel. So that is my structure. So my evidence, I have evidence for my first and my last point. My evidence for my second point, I am going to go back to them. So second point was characters, facial expressions, and body image. I don't have a specific piece of evidence there, so I'm going to go back to my text. And I'm going to give the example of bad internet and can do. I like both of those. Those are going to be my evidence. Bad internet and can do. Now, my explanation. So my point was colors reinforce the message of the text. The evidence is the final panel pastel, but we also have the neon colors, our evidence as well. Let's make these bullet points so I know they're separate. Neon, and we're going to look at the final color. So the neon colors are cheerful. So that would be my explanation here. Remember, 2 different examples, 2 different explanations. So neon, cheerful. Pastel, calm. So that's what we're going to talk about. And our link can be, it's not just colors. Obviously, I will rephrase it more academically. It is also character, body language. That one went slightly wrong there. And let's just remove some spaces so everything fits in here. So first box, declarative, congratulatory address, close-up, into camera, sign backwards. Okay, the explanation's already included here in the evidence there, so we don't need that necessarily. But the evidence here, characters, body expressions. So we have negative body language means something to avoid. Whereas we have positive body language encouraging. Positive. And we have here our link, which is that the combination of text and language in meaning is evident in each box from the beginning. And then I'll say that one of the best examples could be the first one. So that is my link. I need to change this slightly so everything fits in the page. Okay, everything fits in the page there. The explanation's already been covered here, and the link to the conclusion would be a little bit of a summary, I think, where you summarize point 1, 2, and 3, and you connect them all together. So your thesis would be rephrased. So we can rephrase that a little bit later when we're writing the thing. But what I like to do is I like to just turn it on its head. So instead of in order to, we would say encourage and in this comic takes both to encourage and reassure together the reader by working together. Would be just a quick way of rephrasing that, but we can come back to that later. And then you summarize point 1, 2, and 3, and your wise thoughts. This one can be a bit difficult to do, but again, it has to be connected to the text. This is the point where you're actually allowed to include a little bit of judgment, because normally you're just supposed to analyze, you're not supposed to judge. But in your wise thought, you can leave a judgment call where you can say that it has been done well and the goal of the text has been achieved. So this is our Peel paragraph. Now, before I start my essay, first thing I do, I read through my Peel paragraph and I check, does everything connect to the thesis? So remember, your thesis was that text and image were working together to encourage and reassure the reader. So colors and message of the text, we're talking about neon, we're talking about final panel, pastel. So here we have to remember, you have to talk about the content, the overall content of the text, because you're talking about both image and text. Then the final panel, pastel, cam, and then it reinforces the message, which is, or the meaning of, is okay. So, okay, now we have text and image. Is this encourage and reassuring the reader? Neon has cheerful, pastel, calm. Yes, so cheerful is encourage. I don't need to write that down, just so you know. And calm is reassuring. So it is a good idea in your link to link back to the thesis, and you can just put that in there to remind you to link back to the thesis. Then paragraph 2, characters, facial expressions and body language, bad internet and can do. So these are the actual words that are written in the box. So if I'm referring to them, then that's text. And of course, we're talking about the panel, so that is image. Negative body language to avoid. Don't forget text. Just putting a note in there so I remember. Positive body language, encouraging, and remember to connect to text. Then the combination of text and language in meaning is evident in each box from the beginning. And then you have the best example, which is the individual panels, individual messages would be the first box. Declarative, okay, so that's talking directly about text. We're talking about close-up, so that's giving a very, very specific example. Everything's explained. We have text, we have image. Oh, and don't forget the little reminder to talk about your thesis in your link here as well. And there we have it. We have a Peel plan. Our essay practically writes itself at this point. And what we are going to be talking about in the next video is the introduction. We are finally going to actually start writing this essay.